Hello from Tuy Hoa, Vietnam. My name is Michael Michelou. This is a documentary I would like to introduce to you about my dear friend Alan Robinson. We go way back. He's a dear friend. I met him in Asheville, North Carolina, Appalachia. I believe the first words I mentioned to him when I met him was about his hair, and I called him Albert Einstein. We share two things very in common. We are both from planet Earth, and we both are alumni. We graduated both from the University of North Carolina, Asheville, which is very special. A beautiful school, a beautiful campus, wonderful staff, and most amazing university in North America, I believe. We have many New York City stories, experiences that we can expand on, that we have expanded on. Alan Robinson runs performances with spoken word poetry, with performances of music talent. He's the owner, president, and travel consultant at Global Travel, former travel consultant in Expedia Cruise Ship Centers, former USA manager, artist Repra de Luna. From an early age, Alan Robinson grew up in Asheville, Western North Carolina, Appalachia, United States of America. Part of the Appalachian Mountains, Blue Ridge Parkway near the Biltmore Estate. Beautiful little artsy microbrewery, vibrant city, town. I called home for 8 years. He attended the Asheville School for Boys, then earned his bachelor's in French linguistics and literature at the University of North Carolina, Asheville. He then had great experiences living in New York City, performing in a multitude of soap operas, as a doctor. He also was in a movie. You might know him and as famous as Woody Allen is. Woody Allen's Stardust Memories in 1980. Along with stage plays off Broadway, Spring's Awakening by Frank Wedekind at the Alvina Croce off Broadway. He's had a lot of experiences, and he was deeply influenced by his mother because his mother was an actress in New York City, and she, if I have this right, she led a very elegant, beautiful New York City Broadway life, and kind of gave it up for family. Moved to Asheville, North Carolina, raised my dear friend Alan, and let's continue.
Just a little bit. Our life begins today. Open your heart to the rays of the vortex of your soul is vibrating with an amazing spiritual connection. As you look up at the beauty of this morning, this day is a very great and special day. We are here on life's thread. Unafraid, we walk the tightrope. Any minute we could fall into the depths of hell, but we hold on and survive. Leaving our fantasies when dreams become true, we awaken to the new spiritual adventure. Our hearts may be broken on this journey. Love heals those wounds. Goodbyes are only temporary like the wind. Destiny sweeps us away. Be what you want to be on this new day. You are an amazing soul. You are the greatest spiritual soul. Karma will greet you whirling, hurling fast like trains on express lanes. Los Angeles in the night sky, the orange-colored lights looking down as we land at LAX. Rainstorms, this magnitude, the sense we are only a speck of dust in the millions and millions of star-studded skies. Hold on to those moments. Never let them leave your heart. They are crystallized in the forgotten picture of the memories shattered. It is never too late to let love leave your heart from the broken memories. The new door is opening. The passage on the journey to Ithaca continues. Today is the greatest day of our life. This moment, the moment of now, is crystallized in the morning sky, emblazoned on our heart with a great feeling. Spiritual vibrations of life, the power of love to heal most wounds, is a great force in the universe. We must embrace the tortured souls that look out to the sea, the shadow of a distorted reflection, a surreal moment in time, captured in the destiny of skies. Gloomy, our life begins today. Our new beginning, one great powerful soul. Every soul on this planet is amazing. Let no one tell you that you're not the most special human on the planet. You are divine. You are ageless to the effects of time, as every single human being on the planet is in the same human condition. Let toxicity leave your soul and positive halos enter you on this special day. A vibration of sunshine illuminates your heart. Upwards, great ascension, ascending to the height of the plateaus of your soul. Deja vu is gone. The memory is crystallized in the morning sky. I look up to my new beginning, my new journey today. I know that this is the only day I can be sure of. I will make the most of every moment, the purest love from my heart to every soul I encounter, as this is the destiny of man, and our journey is fulfilled in purpose, and the divinity of the moment in the circumference of our lives will never stop towards our destiny. Fate is only a picture dream. I know in my heart today, the only day I can be sure of, as the fate of my life hangs like the precipice on the ice shield. I hope for tomorrow, but I am not sure. Only a fool thinks he will be here tomorrow, because we have no guarantee in this life. We are guaranteed this moment of soul acceptance. These are great moments for hearts, pinnacles of our lives. Keep holding on to this tightrope as you walk your journey. Never let go. You will survive. This is the first day of your life. This is the new beginning. The door is open to the greatest experiences of your life. The moment is glorious. We are enhanced with a spiritual connection. Now our souls fly to higher plateaus. The new beginning. Our life begins today. Thank you. Thank you, Kristen, for the beautiful music as always. Thank you so much. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you so much.
Hello, Alan Robinson, my dear friend in Asheville, Western North Carolina, reporting to you from Queen Yan, Vietnam. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for asking.
You're quite welcome. Mad poet, Ernest Hemingway, not mad scientist, Albert Einstein. Your hair is very Albert Einstein, but we're going to call you the mad poet.
Okay.
Tell me about your background, because I know
Okay,
there's a lot of history behind it.
There is. I was raised in Asheville, North Carolina. My father was an optometrist. I was raised in downtown Asheville, where the Vault is now a hamburger place. That was my dad's office. My mother carried us on her backs as children because she worked in the office as a frame stylist. So I actually grew up in downtown Asheville. It was a very different time. It was very historic always.
Yeah.
And Thomas Wolfe, the writer, was a great influence on my life.
I'm a great fan of Thomas Wolfe, yes.
Born in 1900, died in 1938. I just differentiate that between the other Thomas Wolfe. And he died of brain influenza. They didn't have antibiotics then. From a cold.
He had a giant brain tumor, didn't he?
Well, a cold that went to his brain. They opened his brain at Johns Hopkins, but they couldn't save him. Yes. The parents took him to the best. What
I know of Thomas Wolfe is that he wrote so much that when he went to the publisher, he had a stack almost the size as high as a table, and the publisher was like, "You're gonna have to downsize this."
And I think a great influence on my love of poetry at a very early age was my mother would read us Walt Whitman poems to get us to fall asleep. That was her way of inciting culture in us at a very young age. When we were like 3 and 4 years old, she'd come into the room and read us a poem so we'd fall asleep, my sister and I. Growing up in an environment where my mother was always reading poetry aloud of American poets and European poets, I started to have this love of poetry. She instilled that in me from a very early age. She was a professional actress from Columbus, Ohio, but had worked in New York City before meeting my father.
Tell me about the painting behind you of your mother.
Right, that was done in 1947 when she appeared in the Equity Library Theater production on Broadway of 10 Little Indians.
Very beautiful.
Every star in that movie, including Steve Lawrence, became famous, but she got married, and that I hate to say this, it ended her career, except on the level of Asheville Community Theater and doing things in Asheville, because husbands didn't support wives that would just like travel off and go back and forth to New York City when they were raising children. Husbands expected the wife to raise the children in the 1950s. That's just the way it was.
Yes. Things have definitely changed, and we're constantly in a process of equality and constant changing, and people want to travel and have that freedom to do so.
My mother had a wonderful marriage. My father was very scientific. He was an optometrist, and she was very dramatic, the actress who always believed she was reincarnated from Sarah Bernhardt, the great French actress. She felt she had French genes in her. So I grew up with this love of France because she loved everything French, and it was around us in our home.
Yes, France has a lot of beautiful culture and a lot of beautiful history.
Right.
And tell me about the painting next to your mother.
Right. I've got to get up and remove the fish so you can see it, okay?
Sounds good to me, Alan.
And then I'll come back so you can see the painting and tell you the story behind it, because there's quite a story with it. The painting was inspired. Now you can see it. There's a
Yeah.
skull. See the skull on the right.
Yes,
It was
beautiful.
inspired by me reading my poem, Eternity of Time, at an open mic. An artist was present. His name is Nicholas Cole Adams. He lives in Tallahassee. And he started painting on a canvas the next day and writing lines of my poetry on the canvas. And he felt what I was talking about, memento mori, that we always have to remember that we're going to die. That's the Latin phrase for meaning never forget that we're going to die so we can make the most of every day. And
Yes,
that's what that painting is about. It
yes,
represents the Shakespearean Hamlet image of the skull of Hamlet's father and also of mortality, but also the candle burning with the finger pointing represents immortality,
yes,
and that we keep we're going to keep our flame burning, even though the skull is in the background.
yes. Very beautiful history behind that, and the poetry and the scenario and the meaning behind morality and the actual beauty of death, of which gives our life meaningfulness, purpose.
Right. Because of the memento mori, it does give us a certain energy and meaning to our lives that is really rekindled and renewed and regenerated from our soul every day. Because
Yes,
today I am blessed to be here and I feel I have to give the most from my soul to every single soul I encounter. And one thing that my family taught me, and it's very old school, always be nice to everyone, even if they're not nice, because you want to generate good karma from your soul and
absolutely.
and positive halos.
Well, you know me as a huge
World traveler.
passion for world travel. I get asked so often, who do you travel with? And I say, I always travel by myself, but I'm never alone because I meet people wherever I go. And my philosophy is smile to the world and the world smiles back.
It's true. It's
And
true.
you gain so much lifelong friendships from so many different places globally, with a certain attitude. So,
And you are truly international because you've lived in you've lived in Nepal, you've lived in Vietnam, you've traveled in Jordan, you've traveled in Egypt, you've been all over the world and you've
yeah.
seen the world,
I lived
and
in
it really has
Alaska.
affected.
Although Alaska is a state of the United States, it should be its own country. It's um, so far apart and so isolated, and the culture of Alaska is so different compared to the lower 48.
True, true.
um, Bears and The Last Frontier. Speaking of poetry, Jack London was one of my favorites.
Uh, my favorite poets, I think of Walt Whitman, the American poet, and I
Walt Whitman
also
was
think
great.
was a wonderful poet. The English lake poets, Shelley, Byron, and Keats, they all had tragic lives and lost their lives early in their youth. And of course, the great French poet was a great influence over me when I was studying French at the University of North Carolina in Asheville,
The
where my
same
major was
university I got my earth science geology degree. There
that
we
was
go. Go
my
UNCA.
major was French, and
Beautiful.
I was influenced by the poet Rimbaud, Arthur Rimbaud. He was a genius. He wrote something called A Season in Hell when he was 17, and he died very young in a war. Again, another tragic story of a great poet, great French poet that influenced my life. And of course, the American poets. Um, I love the poetry of Henry David Thoreau and his thoughts.
Yes.
They were great influence to me.
Tragedy brings out very interesting creativity. Um,
It does.
but it's part of life. It's been ongoing ever since the human being was resurrected into a creature on our planet Earth, and it will continue. But let's get into your inspiration and I love your poetry. I remember many times listening to you live, reading your poetry at Noble Kava Bar. I forgot the name of the place near the yacht club. I would go listen
Jack
to
of the
you at
Wood. I also
Jack of the
performed with Jack
Wood.
of,
I've listened to you
yeah,
there. You and I have attended certain um, seminars, meetings at UNCA, and eating all the cheese and cake there is, and drinking red wine that's offered
right.
for free.
I know. Very nice. Very nice
Yeah,
for alumni.
yeah.
Very nice. They treat their alumni great. They do.
Yes, they do.
I,
Go UNCA.
I wanted to say that my poetry has a romantic background, but one of the most positive messages in all my poems, and it runs through all of them, is no matter what happens in your life, you keep going on and holding on to the tightrope that is frayed.
Yes,
You
it's
go
called.
on with fortitude and courage and forthrightness of spirit,
Yeah,
because there's always a new door opening for everyone. They can't
absolutely.
think ever because a door closes that
It's
is an ending.
I
They
like to
need to look at
use
the ending as a beginning. That's how I feel about everything in life.
I like to use the word perseverance, because if you don't persevere and you give up, doors lock on you. And you want to remain, you want to keep these doors unlocked. So you wake up every day with the attitude of, hey, let's try again, don't give up. And those doors will open. There's
We
a lot
all
of
know that
famous
we all
quotes
know that
behind them.
right, and we all know that the tightrope is frayed. We're walking on. We're all walking on a fine line. At any minute, we could fall into the depths of hell, but we don't. We survive,
Yeah,
and that's the beauty of life. We keep surviving because we
absolutely.
know the importance of the beauty of every moment that we're
Yeah.
here.
Like,
Because of the brevity of life, it gives a great meaning to our moments. And that's
like,
the juxtaposition in my poetry. I try to juxtapose this finality with the beginning. And that's one of my great themes in my poetry.
that is very beautiful. All right, let me ask you a few questions, Alan, my dear friend. And I miss you. I want to start by saying, before I ask you some questions, I miss you. I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing you this Christmas holidays and
Great.
this year. And all right, so if you could have one giant billboard with just one of your poems reaching millions of people, where would you have it, and why, and what poem?
The poem would be Ode to Immortality,
Ah,
and it would be in Times Square, New York City.
because it would reach millions and millions of people.
Millions of people, right? And also would reach people that really need to be reached and
Yeah.
helped
And
and believe in them.
Times Square is known, you can almost hear every single language in the world if you hang out in
It's a
Times Square for 24
it's a
hours.
cultural melting pot. You'll see Jordanian people, Egyptian people, French people, Italian people, Spanish people, Arabian culture. It is a melting pot of culture. So it's
Yes,
fascinating for me because every block you walk on is another culture. And
absolutely.
you're listening to like
No,
moving culture meshing together in a synchronicity of spirit, but it's such a diversity of people.
absolutely. And I've waited in the ticket line before for to go see Les Miserables and Cats in Chicago. I've been on those steps.
Right.
um, so could you read the poem?
Absolutely. Let me get it. Okay. I'll be happy to
Absolutely.
read it. Okay. The poem also appears in the film Americus, which was directed by Dane Maniella and came out in 2019. The film is a great, experience to
Yeah.
see if you have a chance to see it.
Well, I love the name already.
Oh, you do. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let me get the poem out. I'm sorry that it's taking me a little while.
Oh, come
Please.
on, Alan. Preparation. What did Benjamin Franklin say? By failing to prepare, you're preparing to fail.
Okay, I'm getting it out now, right now. Here it is.
Makes it more personal.
Yes, it does. Okay. So here we go. I'm going to read it. And the name of this poem is Ode to Immortality. And it was inspired by the solar eclipse, because when I felt the solar eclipse, I had a sense of immortality, and it was seen in Asheville near Pritchard Park. And I looked up and I had these glasses on, and for a minute I could see it. And I felt not only an eclipse in the universe, but an eclipse in my soul, that my life was just beginning and I was immortal for that moment.
That is beautiful. Just quickly, I had just returned from Nepal, and due to an 18-hour layover in China due to air traffic control and them taking me to Los Angeles, and my connecting flight back to Atlanta was out of San Francisco. All those delays led me to being in the perfect place at the right time for the eclipse. My brother picked me up at the Atlanta airport, and about 50 miles heading north towards northwest, I can't remember, towards Asheville, North Carolina, his starter went out. So I was used to sleeping, sitting up, and all these things, whatnot. But it was a Sunday, and so we had to sleep in the car in a gas station. And the next morning, little quaint, you know, Georgia country town, with the little central square in the middle, where kids are playing, and they're giving out free pizza and the Polaroid glasses, so you could see the eclipse without burning your eyes, and it was very, very powerful. So go on.
Ode to Immortality. We are at a crossroads with ourselves. Perfection eludes our ever-strangling grasp on the horizon. You have borne witness to the beginning of time. You've seen the eclipse on the horizon dawn to a new hope, which prevails a new dawn. You were the amazing soul that has reached out with tentacles of love. You are the amazing spirit that has guided the golden light past the chiaroscuro shadows of a doomed horizon. When witnessing the beginning of time, you would remain poised with an equilibrium of spirit. Love's first sight in the Garden of Eden, love withdraws to the silky shadows that mesh synchronicity with the stars. You have lifted us beyond the horizon of our dreams. The burning candle of love will illuminate our hearts. You prevail to the new dawn. The stars shine with a brilliant luminescence. You have guided my spirit beyond the equilibrium of time to the time of my life. You are destined for greatness. You are the shining stars of tomorrow. You are the guiding beacon of hope. Reality reaches beyond your dream. You arrive at the eternal moment. The empress of your dreams, the China syndrome, will allure you to the spoken word, riches beyond the mortality of time. We are now eternal, a trinity stretched just beyond the limits of the horizon. The dead man is floating down the icy cold river of love. He is immortal. He has been to the stars. He has grasped the celestial experience. He knows his soul has just begun to live to the celestial connection of love. Love reigns supreme. It is the most powerful force. We can never diminish the power of love to heal most wounds. We are now eternal. Silence. The stone is set, etched in pyramids, the memorial. We are united with a global presence. You are the amazing soul. You are the amazing one. You are the shining star of eternity that will never stop shining. Your love will permeate a million souls that were forgotten, but the memories keep burning, and they are so vivid among the beautiful, spiritual inhabitants of this planet. You have witnessed soul power of solar dimensions. You have witnessed love. You will now have the burden to carry that throughout your journey. The journey in glancing upward to Juliet and Romeo's lines when we remember Shakespeare's thoughts. When Romeo says, but soft, when light through yonder window breaks, it is the east and Juliet is the sun. Arise, fair sun, and kill the envious moon, who is already sick and pale with grief. Be not her maid, that she is envious. Her vestal livery is but sick and green, and none but fools do wear it. You have now evolved into the sunshine of your life. You are the soul power. You have been lifted beyond the doom for centuries of life. We are floating on life's light bulb and life's mirror. I love you all. You have each and every one of you given your great soul. You are the shining stars of tomorrow. You have enlightened my path and illuminated my life. I treasure you all. Thank you.
That is beautiful, Alan. I love it. I got goosebumps.
I'm glad you felt the emotion
Yes.
that I feel behind soul power and solar connection.
Goosebumps, I've heard, is a sign from God,
Oh,
from a higher power. It's one of those mystery body functions that I believe is sent spiritually.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
You kind of already told me what inspired you to start writing poetry. So just really quickly, briefly, just mention it one more time. I know you mentioned your mom reading.
Well, I was
Whitman.
on a ship when I first started. I was 17 when I first started writing tone poems of my mind. I was on a ship looking at the ocean, seeing the endless sea and eternity. And I was truly inspired by the planets and the ocean and the alignment of the moons and Saturn and Orion in the sky. All this alignment came together. And ever since that day of that moment of alignment, I have never stopped writing poetry.
That is amazing. From the heart, beautiful, beautiful aligned story and history behind your poetry and your passion for it. You already answered. You said Walt Whitman is your favorite
One of the many favorites, but I will say others. Samuel Taylor Coleridge, William Wordsworth was a wonderful poet that influenced me. Again, Shelley, Keats, and Byron, the English lake poets, were a great influence on my life.
Beautiful.
And of course, I thought of another great poet was Allen Ginsberg of the Beat Generation. His poetry was very realistic and wonderful. And it was at a time when people didn't have cell phones and they really appreciated going to poetry gatherings.
Yes.
Now that people have become addicted to technology, somehow we have to keep poetry alive and the art of poetry alive. It's important because we're in a very technological age.
It's almost similar to music, you know. There was a time where musicians had to be poetic in their lyrics. Like example, Rocket Man by Elton John was actually about a cocaine habit, but they weren't allowed to use certain words or implications that involved like drug abuse or stuff like that. So they had to be poetic. Today they can just say it right out, and it's so I think there's a lot of music that's missing that poetic feel, the poetic creativity.
I know my documentary won't be ready for a while, but I do hope you can post this video of this recording on my Facebook so that I can share it with people about my love of poetry and the
Absolutely.
importance of poetry. Thank you.
Yeah.
Before the documentary, I may just post this video.
Yeah, absolutely. And what advice would you give to young poets today?
I would tell them today to never give up, even if people seem not to be listening to you. Always know if there's just one person out there that you change their life, it's worth it, because you've helped one person realize, even though they may have been through a lot of traumatic events, that they can go on and put their life back together. And you give them hope and courage and fortitude of spirit. That one person is worth everything.
Yes.
If the other 20 people in the room aren't listening, if they're drinking or smoking or looking at their phone, it's okay if you reach one person, because when you help one person, it is a great experience in life.
It's the you just answered the next question. It's the gift that keeps on giving. It's like pay it forward.
Right.
You know, it's like blogging. I've read a lot of things about bloggers. One that stands out to me from one very famous New York Times columnist blogger is 99% of bloggers write what they think others want to hear.
True.
If you write what you want to hear, it actually brings out your most creativity.
Absolutely.
Which touches more people. So you answered basically the next question with that. And last but not least, how has your poetry played an important role on your emotional state? And list one example. Or mention one example.
Right. When I lost my mother under some tragic circumstances, and I tried to revive her and bring her back to life, and I wasn't able to be successful with that, with the mouth-to-mouth recitation. I knew that the spirit goes on.
Yeah.
It's instilled in the person that has instilled it in you. And even though that was a very traumatic experience to see a dead person, I'd never really seen a dead person till my mother died in front of my eyes. I realized that that spirit leaves you and stays into eternity. And that was a great influence on my poetry, because it's about the spiritual. So even though there's this finality in life, you're never able to talk to that person again, or that, their spirit keeps living on.
Yes.
And that was what affected me as a great moment in my poetry.
It opened up a light to know that there's more than just the physical world.
Right, right. And the depth of relationships, not just the surface of looking at relationships, but finding out what other souls are really about and connecting with their soul power. That is the true essence of being, the unbearable lightness of our being, when we realize that the essence is our soul, and developing that soul, and not thinking with our mind, but thinking with our soul.
It's
we have to rethink our whole way of doing things, because we always want to think with our mind, but we've got to let our soul become powerful.
There's two examples. Maybe it's fitting because my image with the Golden Gate Bridge, and you just see my mind in my eyes. It kind of has an example.
I love that image. It's very Shakespearean. It's almost like a scene out of Hamlet, where Hamlet sees his father's ghost. It's an apparition. It's great. I want to point out something. Can you see this book, The Void?
It does expressions. It looked like a mushroom now, or a goblin.
The front of this is my poetry chapbook, if anyone's interested. It's called The Voyage of the Seven Seas.
Oh, wow, interesting. I want a copy because
I
I
will get
love
you one.
old navigation of the Vikings and
This is the back of the book, the Memento Mori, because we must remember the skull
okay,
and know that,
absolutely.
alas, poor Yorick. I think of the great scene in the graveyard scene from Hamlet,
Yeah.
where Hamlet talks
And
to his father.
also it reminds me that beauty rests beneath the skin.
Right.
It's not just skin
So,
deep. And also, I have a tattoo on my arm of the famous story of King Arthur and the
how
sword and the
wonderful.
stone.
How
And
wonderful.
it pertains to that King Arthur was the only one that could pull the sword out of the stone because he used his heart, and everybody else used their mind, and they could not pull the sword out of the stone. But King Arthur could pull the sword out of the stone because he used his heart and his soul, not his mind.
Well, Michael, you're a great explorer. Your soul wants to explore and learn about new cultures. So your soul is poetic, and I appreciate this interview. It's been wonderful. Did you have some more questions for me, though? I think you have a few more.
I do not. You said it best, and I am so grateful for everything you said. What you taught me, uh, how beautiful poetry is, and the meaning behind it, and the meaning it can have to so many people, and the meaning it has to each and everybody's individual experiences through life.
It's true.
So
Thank
I
you so
appreciate
much for
that.
this wonderful interview. And
Yes,
again, I hope you can post it on my Facebook, this part of the interview.
I
I don't,
will.
I can't
I'll,
post it from here, so you'll be able to do that, hopefully.
I'll do it
Hopefully.
right away.
Well, thank you so much. What a beautiful interview. I just feel really honored. And, have you looking at my home when you actually helped me move into this house
I did help you
also
move
has,
into that house.
thank you for that, Michael. That was great
You're
help.
welcome.
And
Fairview, I remember that day, the U-Haul
it was
truck.
the U-Haul truck. You remembered it. You remember you were driving it.
Yes.
So I needed help and you really were helpful. But thank you for this beautiful, insightful interview because it really helped me bring together so many thoughts about my poetry and why I write poetry and really, really resonates the culture of poetry because it's a great
Yeah,
culture. We must never let it die. We have to keep
never.
poetry alive.
Yeah,
And that's why I go to open mics where I perform
yes.
because the
We,
spirit of poetry can never die
Alan,
because it must be
sum it up really fast because we got about 30 seconds and this
okay.
Zoom thing ends.
I hope to inspire people to always know through poetry, whenever an ending happens, it is a new beginning, a new door is opening for them, a better and more positive energy will happen. And they need to let go of any negativity, even though it's sad not to hold on to it, to let the new spiritual positive vibrations and halo and karma from the universe reach their soul so that
Very
their heart
beautiful.
can open to love again, as love is the greatest force in the universe,
Very
the
beautiful.
most
Thank you,
powerful
Alan.
healing. Have a beautiful day. Have a
Have a
beautiful day.
beautiful, beautiful day.